everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Talk to Rami show. I'm very excited because today I'm going to have an interesting conversation with Amber Rebold. She's in the studio. She's not only a hardcore entrepreneur and the chef, but she's in the tech space too. She's got a lot of stories that she's going to share with us, but with no further ado, Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How you doing?
It's a great day. I always say I understand why everyone moves to the city. It's just, you can't have a bad day in Austin.
Austin is good. Keep it weird, right?
I try.
Yeah. How long have you been living in Austin?
I've lived in Austin for 14 years, but I grew up in San Antonio, which if you're on the I-35 corridor, we have our own little DFW thing going on. So I've been in Austin in some capacity my whole life.
You have a very interesting story, but before we get into the details, tell me who is Amber? Where you grow up, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And here, you can just unsort,
spitball it,
filter, just go to town.
That's always an interesting question because I feel like in the States, our propensity when answering who are you is what you do for a living.
Exactly.
I usually lead with, I'm an aunt. I love my nephews more than anything. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. But next comes, I am somebody who loves to make people happy. And where that has led is being a chef by night. I'm in sales, tech sales by day. I stay busy all the time. And I'm just somebody who really wants to enjoy as many moments as I can.
Why you trying to make people happy?
It's selfish. I love the way it feels to make people happy. I always tell people when they are thanking me, I'm like, it's a two-way street.
This is something a lot of people don't get it these days. Unfortunately, a lot of us are selfish. And a lot of people. And they want everything for themselves. And this sense of giving and making other people happy, I think is a great trait.
It's the best form of selfishness. I'm very lucky that what makes me happy is what makes other people happy. It's not something self-destructive or negative. I just really love seeing that look on people's faces when they're comforted. And food can do so much. Food can take you to your childhood. Food can take you on a trip that you remember. Food can comfort you, bring you joy. It can give you adrenaline. There's so many things that food can do in an instant of tasting it. And I love kind of helping people engineer their mood based on what they're eating.
How did you get to the food?
That's an interesting story. Well, I love eating.
Because you were in the show on the next level.
I was.
Last season, I believe.
Last season, so season 1, which aired last year on Fox and is on Hulu now. The road to me getting there was I've always loved to eat. And that led to me learning how to love to cook. And during the pandemic, I was freshly living on my own. I got in a divorce and boom, pandemic. And
wow.
I was bored. I was used to taking care of somebody and I wasn't anymore. And so I would cook and I would post it on Instagram. And I got reached out to initially from a casting agent about a different project that didn't pan out. But she was dedicated. She was like, I am putting on something. We actually went through 3 different projects that weren't fits for me. And then she came and she said, I'm doing the Gordon Ramsay show and I think you're perfect.
Wow.
And I thought she was kidding. I was like, what are you talking about?
Said, what's happening?
I've never worked in a kitchen. I didn't go to culinary school. Like, how would I ever be on a Gordon Ramsay show? And she said, but there's a new concept and it's all about like home chefs versus professionals. And we don't know much, but I don't care. I think you're perfect. And so I applied on a whim. And the next thing I knew, 2 weeks before shooting started, they called me and said, we want you to do it. And it all just happened from there.
How did you feel when you got a phone call and said, oh, it's a reality?
I remember I was vacuuming. And when they said it, I said, I'm vacuuming. I said that to them because I was just so in shock. They were like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I'm vacuuming. And they're like, well, do you want to do it after you vacuum?
Oh my God.
I really do. I was shocked and I was scared. And I just thought, you know what? The world has gotten so improbably strange over the past year. I need out of this house. Like, I will do it for no other reason than I'm dying to have an experience. I have been trapped in this house and I want to go do something crazy. That was
a big experience for you, I believe so. And how did you take it? You go show up and what was the process?
It was surreal. We had to get there and we had to quarantine for several days in our hotel rooms. We didn't have keys to our hotel rooms. We couldn't leave. Once we started shooting, we had to test every morning. But it really didn't hit me at all until Gordon was standing in front of me. The whole thing was just so surreal that I just we were doing these test runs of entrances, and they wanted to catch our real reaction. So they didn't tell us, like, on the next one, Richard Blaze, Naisha Arrington, and Gordon Ramsay are going to be in the room. They didn't tell us. So they caught all of our authentic response. We had come in and out 4 times, and we walk in, and I just remember thinking, like, I felt my stomach drop and was like, what have you done now? What situation did you just get yourself in? And I was just like, all right, we're going to do our best.
And how was Gordon Ramsay's reaction? Like, how was it? Okay, they say, I never met the guy. What they say, he's kind of hard.
He's known for being a tough guy. He is, and he has a massive presence. What I wasn't prepared for was his presence. He's a tall guy. I didn't realize he's a really tall, big guy. But even if you didn't know who Gordon Ramsay was, when he walked through the ring, you'd know he was somebody. He has this energy that just expands like a atom bomb. And he's such a professional. You can see him kind of slip his little earpiece out. He doesn't let anyone tell him what to say or do. He's completely authentic. And he's a professional. He's shot God knows how many shows at this point. And he really seemed very understanding. He kind of immediately treats you with this respect of the common bond. We're all here because we love food. And he'll yell at you if you screw up, but so does a basketball coach when you miss a free throw.
Absolutely.
So I have nothing but amazing things to say about Gordon. I just think he's an incredible person. And when you look at his schedule and what all he does, it's amazing he doesn't have blogs more often.
Yeah, he's a very busy guy. But how did you handle the stress during the cooking? Because I have seen the show, and it's very stressful because you go against the time.
Yeah, you are. And you're also dealing with 27 cameras looking at you and knowing that you're cooking against professionals who know what every piece of equipment is. They know what every ingredient is. And I mostly handled it by crying, which if you've seen the show, you know that a lot of it was
I didn't want to get into it.
Cussing, crying, and sweating was kind of my MO for like that situation. It's weird. In ways I did better than I thought I would. And in ways I kick myself daily, knowing where I'm at now versus where I was then. If I could do it now, how much different it would be. But it was just mostly cussing, crying, and sweating.
You had to just come up with a recipe or your like they give you 10 different ingredients and oh my God.
Not even, they don't give it to you. You've got 30 seconds to run to the platform. And in that 30 seconds, you run there and you're seeing everything for the first time. And you just have to grab things, and whatever you grab, you have to use, and whatever you don't grab, you don't have access to. So you might have 3 things, you might have 15 things, but that's what you're working with. And so you've got to think on the spot. And so we all learned to think differently.
And think on your feet.
And I learned to quit planning. And I've kind of actually taken that in life. Everyone tells you that you've got to have a plan. I think the greatest thing I learned from that show is you do not have to have a plan. You have to learn to trust yourself and be a problem solver. Because plans fall apart. If you learn to be a problem solver, you're ready for anything.
Are you a risk taker?
I wasn't, and they ripped the seal. I've always been a very by the books, play it safe person, pretty straight laced overall. I kind of play crazy on TV.
As you mentioned, planning is good, but it's not always working. It doesn't. No. Sometimes things doesn't go by plan.
In fact, I think that most disappointment in life comes from the suffering of expectations, and expectations are tied to plans.
Expectation of yourself or others?
Anything. Anytime you have an expectation, life is going to laugh at you. You've got a plan and an expectation of how it's going to go, whether it's for yourself or others or situation. So rarely is that going to happen, and that's when disappointment sets in. If you learn to be somebody who takes it in the moment, open to experiences, can solve problems on the fly, your happiness will go up exponentially.
How you deal with them, because I know that when you grew up, or I grew up, other people, they have high expectation for us.
Yeah.
Like, I know some parents that say, you got to go to medical school, you got to do this. And some people, believe it or not, they live by that for other people's expectation from that, even they don't like it. What is your take on that?
I think we talk so much about childhood trauma and childhood's, shaping you. And we all seem to know that it's true, but I don't think anyone really pays enough heed to how much it does form who we are. I was very lucky. My parents got divorced when I was very young, and I just never saw or heard from my dad again. So I had a truly single parent, and she was completely supportive. I had these whims of, Mom, can I do this? Mom, can I? And I wanted to be in the Army, and I wanted to be a neonatologist, and I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I did all these crazy things. And her answer was always, like all girls can. Mom, can I be an army? Like all girls can. Can I be a chef? Like all girls can. She just taught me that if I wanted to do it, I could. And so I was very lucky that I went into the world with this expectation that anything could happen. And that has been proven right.
Because that play a big role in our lives, the parents.
Absolutely.
And how you grew up, even though you experienced the, divorce and everything else. But when people that stand beside you and they support you, that changed the whole thing.
Even my divorce wasn't that scary because my mom had shown to me at a young age that doesn't kill you. It doesn't break you. You don't need anyone else. You can want someone else. But what I saw from a very young age is your life goes on. You achieve, you succeed. She had built a beautiful life for my sister and I. We never wanted for anything. So even when it came time for me looking at a divorce, I think I was half as scared as anyone else was because my mom had shown me that is just part of your story, not a definition of who you are.
Why you think the divorces are happening? I know there's a lot of reasons for it.
Yeah.
But I got divorced too, but I think the communication is a big thing.
I think so too. And I think it's an accessibility. I think what has happened in society is we used to have this very big privacy thing. Family issues, problems, anything was handled within your home. That you can look at the 1950s and 60s, things weren't public. There wasn't venting on the internet. There wasn't sharing your opinion. It happened at the dinner table, which meant that your partner was your best friend, your confidant, your therapist. And that can cause its own set of problems, sure. But in this day and age, it's so easy to get emotional fulfillment elsewhere. If things are hard in your marriage, there's somebody on the internet who's going to tell you you're doing a great job. Or there's a coworker at work and this culture of sharing, and you could form that bond there. I just think that we have broadened our horizons, which has pros and cons. And I think what really has happened with divorce rate is the stigma has gone down, which I think is a good thing. Because if you hate your house, you sell it. If you hate your job, you get a new one. If you and your spouse grow apart, I think you should be able to make that decision not be final. But I think it's also just that we don't rely as much within our home for our needs as we used to.
Don't you think that one of the reasons people, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that they're not vulnerable? Are you a vulnerable person?
Very.
Really?
Vulnerable? Yeah, very. I'm an
open book. Vulnerability?
Absolutely. I think it's the biggest strength you can have.
Amen to that. You are a couple of first people that they're telling me that, because a lot of them, they're not going to say, they think that's the sign of like weakness.
And you know what? Now you've just said you have a weakness, and everyone knows what your weakness is. If you're vulnerable and open, it's a two-part thing. Vulnerable and open, no one can hurt you. You've already owned your thing. Number two, when you share a ton, people assume you shared everything, which is powerful.
But sometimes they use it against you. What you say about that?
Well, they can't. That's your choice. You can let someone break you with information about you, or you can own your own story, and that makes it impossible to hurt you with it. I know I've made mistakes in life. I'm the first one to say it. And that means that no one can weaponize it against me, because you're not telling me anything new or scary. You're not saying anything I haven't said. It just kind of de-escalates the whole thing.
How did you learn that tactic, or how did you learn that?
That's a really good question. I think
bad experiences.
I've just always been I think I grew up in a very emotionally safe home. We were allowed to talk about our feelings.
That's a good thing.
It was all women. You know what I mean? It was me, my mom, and my sister. There was no toughen up. There was some toughen up. My mom's pretty tough, but there was never this thought that you couldn't share how you felt and you couldn't work through it. Therapy was never a stigma in my family. We're a big therapy family. And I think the more you do those things, you feel more powerful. When you're carrying the weight of a secret or a burden or a sadness, your strength isn't there to carry the other heaviness in the world. I think if you unburden yourself of secrets and heaviness and all of those things, that's just a bunch of bandwidth you freed up to face all of other life's challenges.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because at the end, we are in charge of our own destiny. Mm-hmm. You know, the way we act, the way we show our emotions, the way we talk to people, the way we communicate with people. I think that will, at the end, just kind of highlight of our life.
Yeah, and my favorite thing to say is you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you feel about it. I had some pretty bad things happen to me back to back to back that were out of my control. But what I could control was how long that kept me down. Do I let this person steal a day of my life or a year of my life? Do I let this darkness live with me forever? Or do I take the one thing I can do and heal? And it's a gift you give yourself. People talk about forgiveness. It's not even about forgiveness. It's about how do I want to feel today and giving yourself permission to do so.
Have you ever forgive? I'm sure you forgive people a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course. There's people I've forgiven. There's a few, maybe that I haven't, but I don't let it consume me or run my day.
But basically what you're telling me, you forgive, but you don't forget.
You know what? It's almost opposite.
Really?
It's almost like I don't forgive, but I forget. I don't think about it a lot.
Oh, really?
We joke about my family's Irish, and there's this joke about Irish Alzheimer's. You forget everything but the grudges. So I think, to be honest, there's a few people I've got a really long rope and I'm very forgiving, but the few people I haven't, I don't really forgive them, but I do forget them. I don't let them be part of my life day to day. So for me, I think it's kind of the opposite.
Really? That's very interesting. And then this is how you deal with negative people in your life? Because I see you when I talk to you, you're a very positive person. I don't think so you can handle negative people.
Okay.
How do you do that?
You know what? It was hard for me when I first did the show. When you do a reality TV show, everyone thinks you want their opinion. And at times that was beautiful. I would get these really amazing letters of support or how I'd helped people. And I got some really dark hate mail, which blew my mind. I would never look up somebody's TV show and find them on Instagram. And yeah, I got some really, truly very dark things. And it did too many back to back when I was going through some things already in life was hard for me. And that is a way in which that show has been blessing for me.
The show was before or after your divorce?
It was after. So the kind of the timeline was I got a divorce and then I was assaulted and then I did the show. And that was in a very short time period. And so part of me with doing the show was kind of like, well,
you're a tough cookie.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that for myself. I am very resilient. And I think all of it was a really unfortunate part of my story that I needed to make me who I am. I don't regret anything that's happened in my life. Some of it wasn't fun. Some of it I would love to not remember, but it all made me who I am. And I love who I am. So it's worth it.
But what did you do to get unstuck? Because I can tell you a lot of females out there, they've been in a divorce situation or a lot of stuff that you might be able to help them. But the thing is that they're stuck. I don't know what they're stuck in their past or what is your advice? What they have to do? Because you went through it. You went to the divorce, assault, all that stuff, and you're in the show and you have to go over, push yourself to your limits. That's tough.
I think my biggest piece of advice to people is time passes, whether you want it to or not. How do you want to spend it? It's very easy to say all these bad things have happened to me. I'm in these circumstances. Everything's terrible. That's an easy thing to do. You give yourself a gift when you say, all of these bad things have happened and I'm going to smile anyway. You're not denying it happened. You're not feeling it. But it's just like, believe it or not, it's a choice you get to make. Do I want to have a good day or a bad day? And when you decide you want to have a good day, make that playlist that you can't help but smile for those songs. Eat that food that makes you feel safe and comfortable from your childhood. Get those endorphins pumping on a run. Do whatever it is. Everyone knows what their quick hit happiness is. People choose not to do it. They want to be miserable and have your minute. But at any point, you get to decide when you feel different. That is not something anyone else can control. They can do things to you. No one gets to dictate how you feel.
I think it's a practice. I think you have to practice that.
It's almost like meditating.
And I always tell people, as you mentioned earlier, that you have to be selfish. If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of the others?
Oxygen mask on an airplane. They tell you that you have to put your own on before you can do your child's. And as a parent or as a person who cares about young children, your instinct is immediately to go there. But that is an actual TSA rule that applies to our whole life. If you do not take care of you first, you are incapable of taking care of anyone else.
And that applies to our lives.
In every capacity, whether you're a boss or a parent or a chef or a teacher or whatever you are, if you do not take care of the mothership, you cannot help anyone else.
When you cook, when you're in the kitchen, what goes through your mind? I always wondered that because you're a very passionate person. And what is that moment that, it really gives you that much happiness? Like,
oh gosh, it is the ultimate happiness for me. And I compare it to like the flow state that you see when a musician is just jamming on their guitar. kind of see that moment with like Gary Clark Jr. or Dave Matthews where they kind of have gone somewhere else. Or you see with painters or even golfers, when you watch Tiger golf, he's not in tune with everything around him. He's experiencing something for himself. For me, that's cooking. I'm thinking about how I want it to make someone feel. Okay, well, I know that if I want them to feel excited, I need some heat in here. I need some spice because that's going to, kick off an adrenaline response. Or I want someone to feel whimsical, so it needs to be as colorful as possible. So I'm really just looking at it maybe the way an architect looks at a building or a musician looks at a melody. It's the only time I've ever been able to successfully leave everything else behind. I can do it a little bit weightlifting because you're so focused on what you're doing to not hurt yourself. But I can't sit and meditate to save my life. My brain, I'm a neurodivergent squirrel. It's like ping, 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 ping. Cooking, I can just be part of it. And I think everyone has it.
I heard that you make the best scramble. Like, is that right?
It's so funny because I come from hate eggs. And what I've come to discover is I will put my scrambled eggs against anyone's. And it's not just me.
That's very powerful to state.
It's the feedback I've gotten from like, they're really lovely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how did you get into the tech space then? At night, daytime, you do a shift and you do all that stuff. It's kind of different industry. I'm sure you have a lot of talents you bring to the other side, which is connecting with people and understanding people and, helping them.
Yeah.
But how did you get to your tech?
I was in media sales forever. That's my family legacy is advertising and marketing. That's what my whole family's done. My grandpa, my uncle, my mom, everybody. So I kind of went up in that space and I discovered that I loved sales. It's ultimately getting to meet people, talk to people. And when you really look at what I do now in tech, which is lead gen, you're still feeding people.
Yes.
You're feeding them leads, you're feeding their families, you're helping them make money. It's actually not as weird of a transition as you'd think. And I was laughing about this last night. Last night, I was texting 2 different culinary clients, one for a corporate dinner next week, another for a bachelorette. I was making cookies that I was going to deliver today to my tech prospects because I feel like, in a world full of email and LinkedIn, we forget that there's humans in the same city as us. And I did handwritten notes and cookies to deliver to my tech clients. And in that note, I wrote, whether it's lead gen or food gen, you're helping feed people.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, they actually go hand in hand to me. And even if it is a weird combo, chocolate and pecans go great together. So that's what I did for the cookies.
Because I think with the all your expertise, all this stuff that you do right now from the food, from the tech, I can pretty much call you're connected.
Very much so.
And I get that feeling that you love talking to people. And, what makes you to love people? What is it? Is this a personal satisfaction you get or helping others or giving or combination?
I think like you obviously love stories, right? Like you love people, you love stories. I think that good, bad, or otherwise, everyone's fascinating. I love people. Even the people that are kind of maybe unsavory to many, it's so interesting to me that all these moments happen in our lives. We're all made of skin and bones. We're all made of muscles and blood and tissue. And yet all these little moments happen and everyone ends up different. And I think that is so fascinating. And I want to know all of them. Like you, I want to know their stories. I want to know what makes them tick. And then ultimately, what makes them happy, because I can help with that. I love making people happy. And if you meet enough people, you start understanding more about the commonalities and that there's certain things that just make everyone happy. Food's one of them.
Yeah, food is really is one of those, mediums that really makes a lot of people happy. And that's what they're saying. I'm sure you have seen it, that these couples, they say, go take a, food class together or go cooking class together. I think that creates the bonding.
Breaking bread, creating things. Ultimately, at the core, it's a core survival nourishment. So it's a beautiful thing you give to somebody. We live in a very comfortable society now, but ultimately you're helping someone survive. If you can do that on top of making them feel really good, my favorite thing is to find out what someone's favorite childhood dish was from their grandma that passed. They haven't seen it forever. And I try to make it because, man, if you can re-experience that safety and joy of childhood that's true for most people, that's a really cool gift to give somebody. It's better than a gift card, I think.
Yeah, but, I don't know, sometimes pleasing everybody is a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm. then you can't do it. You can't. And that's the thing is at some point you have to take ownership of that and say, learn your audience, learn who you can make happy, do your best, and ultimately do it until it makes you unhappy. If you're breaking your back trying to make other people happy and you're unhappy, it's back to that oxygen mask. It's no longer serving its purpose. If you're like me and the art of making other people happy is selfish, keep it selfish. Make sure it's making you happy. If you're doing too much, if you're spread too thin, now you can't make anybody happy.
Yeah, if you're not happy, nothing is going to work. That's what a lot of people, they're stuck in a very toxic relationships.
I don't get it.
I really don't get it.
We don't know how many lives we get. Could be 1 million, could be 1. I'm aware of this one and I would like to enjoy as much of it as possible.
And then, we have a limited time on this planet.
Yeah.
Now, I always tell people that why you have to just waste your time and be in an environment that is really not helping you to grow.
Right.
And you're suffering because you're in a very bad environment. And I think environment is everything.
And, also you got to consider wherever you go, there you are. So you got to, if you're in a bad situation, acknowledge what if it's your part, because there's always two sides. Even with the most monstrous situation, there's something in there. You have to make sure you're owning your part, being the best you can be. And if that's still a bad environment, you owe it to yourself and someone else to be out of that situation. But I don't want anyone to think that you can just walk away from everything all the time. You do have to own your parts, because otherwise, wherever you go, there you are. They're all going to be bad situations.
Is it hard for you to walk away from your life and get divorced?
Yeah, it was. We got married really young, and he was the most fascinating, wonderful, beautiful thing to me for so long. And I think we were just so young that we were really different. And as we grew, we turned into really different people. And those two people weren't their best selves for each other. And it was amicable in the end. We both agreed this isn't our best selves. I look at it now and it's like, man, if we could both be who we are now with each other, it would have worked. But that's not how that goes. That story had to happen for him to be who he needed to be and for me to be who I needed to be. And it's all part of your story. So it was hard. It was sad. We were both sad. Really love his family. So all of that was hard. But my life is so close to perfect now, and it wouldn't have been. It wasn't. So you have to acknowledge no mud, no lotus. You got to go through some things sometimes to get to the other side.
And then, you have to understand, I think, yourself and what you expect from yourself and who you are.
Absolutely.
As a person, because I think self-awareness is everything.
Absolutely. If you walk around thinking that you're never the problem, thinking that you can just create feelings versus what your real feelings are, all of that, it's never going to work. You have to be aware of what you're bringing to every table you sit at.
But I'm sure the way you were thinking 10 years ago is totally different now.
Yeah, I was a kid. And I look back and there were so many mistakes I made. I knew it at the time. That's something I was raised with also, is an awareness of owning your part. I learn every day. I'll randomly look back and be like, oh, that was kind of more my fault than I thought it was. Or, oh, that's something I could have done differently. But that helps inform my path forward. You look in the rearview mirror to see where you've been, but you're not going that direction. You just have to use what's there to go forward appropriately.
Basically, what you're telling me to learn from the past.
Yeah.
I just let it go.
Don't live in it. Don't go back to it. Don't wallow in it. See it, note it, learn from it, just like you do your high school history class. We all remember what we learned, in high school history, but we don't live our life based on the French Revolution. We learn from it. We, obviously.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like it happened. We learned from it, but you can't let it become your whole personality. The Louisiana Purchase is not my personality, and neither is my divorce.
Yeah, it's just, it's past.
It happened.
It happened.
One of those moments.
But how you handle your circle of friends now? Because when I'm connecting the dots right now, I'm talking to you, I said, okay, the Amber is a person that she's very particular to pick her friends in her close circles because a lot of flashbacks. But,
yeah,
and how you handle that, how you choose your friends, because a lot of people out there, a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers, they really don't know who their friends are or how they can pick actually friends or how actually manage them or have a relationship with them. How you handle that? What is your process right now?
That's what's changed most about me over the years.
Really?
Admittedly, I'm a people pleaser, so it used to be anyone who likes me is my friend. Like that just used to be it.
You couldn't say no?
If you like me, if you need me, great, I'll get a golden retriever. Like, okay, we're friends now. What's changed for me now is it's a 3-piece criteria. Do you bring me joy? Am I capable of bringing you joy? Would I be proud to be like you? So there's that phrase, you are the reflection of the 5 people closest to you. I now really think about, okay, 5 people closest to me, would I be proud of that? If I woke up as you tomorrow or with a bunch of your traits, would that enhance me and who I am in my life? And so I try to keep the people in my life as people I admire. I bring them joy, they bring me joy, I admire them. Those are the 3 touch points. And I can say that I'm in such a good place with it. My team, my roster is so good right now. I'm so proud of who they are.
Got anybody out of your circle?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
How did you do that?
You know, sometimes people cut themselves out of your circle. I had a really good friend who, it's funny, I was just thinking about it right before I came in here today, which is wild. But I had a really close group of girlfriends that kind of removed themselves from me. And I've got some abandonment issues from my dad and my ex, all that. And it really rubbed up against that. And then I realized it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why someone leaves or why you're not friends anymore. When I look back, I don't know how much joy we were bringing each other in a true sense. And we were not at a place where I could feel like I want to be more like this. No slight on them, just with where I'm going and what I want to do. Those friendships don't serve you. Sometimes you realize it and you can work on it and have really raw, candid conversations with somebody. Hey, I love being around you, but you've got a propensity to get drunk and start stuff at bars, and that's not my jam. Like, what's going on with you? Or, hey, you're pretty negative a lot of the time. I hate that for you. How can we help you unburden yourself? And if through those honest, candid efforts, you can't come to a middle ground, you've at least laid the groundwork for they're probably irritated with you at that point anyway.
Okay, so you have the requirements right now.
Yeah, nobody has to be perfect.
Somebody be your friend.
Yeah, nobody has to be perfect. They can be going through it. Everyone's welcome to have their issues in life. It's all about how people handle it. You know, if somebody's self-destructive or negative or dark in some way, that doesn't serve me and my mission, which is, do I want to be more like that? So it's not about perfection. It's just about like, hey, this is the path I'm on. And I want people who are going to help me get there and that I can help on theirs also.
Have you ever had the experience of the people with the bad energy?
Oh, God. I'm a magnet.
I know it's a magnet.
I'm a magnet for it because I am very nurturing. 800 people have me in their phone as mom. I'm very loving and nurturing. And so I unfortunately am like, come here, broken birds. Like that was my MO for so long was I will fix you. I will help you. And that's not a good dynamic for anybody. I've had a lot of bad energy in my circles over the years. And it's not always their fault. Some people just have had really hard stories. They've had really rough encounters, all those things. There's a lot of reasons somebody can have bad energy.
And it does suck the energy out of you.
And I'm very susceptible to that. I'm very empathetic and I'm very easily drained. And that's something I've had to be, like you mentioned, when I look for friendships, I have to be very aware of that. They don't have to be perfect. They're allowed to have things go wrong in their life. But if they are somebody who feeds on draining you, I'm the first to go.
Because they have to be able to charge your battery, not draining your battery.
Right. Absolutely. And my sister is kind of my litmus test for that. She is the perfect example of we can both have problems and talk to each other about it. It's not about being perfect. It's can we work through this constructively? And she's kind of now my litmus test for my friendships because she and I can go through anything, hard times, all of that. But it doesn't create bad energy for me.
Because that bad energy, because I was, as you were talking, I had a situation that, man, it would drain me. I would go down so much, like, it was out of the hand. Like, I think we absorbed that energy. I don't know what it is because
you cared. Obviously, this is somebody I could see it on your face. That was somebody you really cared about, and that's what makes it so easy.
Yeah, and then you can't do anything, and because they're not helping themselves, and you can't do anything because your hands are tied.
Yeah,
and then you don't know what you have to do with that situation.
It's heartbreaking.
It's really heartbreaking.
And you don't want to abandon somebody in a time of need and all of that. So I always say, like, you really just do your best. You try to help them. And if they don't want to be helped, because some people don't, you have to distance yourself.
But they have to understand that those people, nobody's going to come and save them.
No.
Did anybody came and save you?
People help. You know what I mean? Like or
they're not going to go out of their way to save you.
No. And you can't be saved. If the situation's not over until you save yourself. If somebody else is saving you, the situation will not be gone.
You went through a divorce. I went through a divorce. You have to become very honest with yourself that what I'm doing is not working. Something is not, it's going to change.
Yeah.
And you have that, attachment, you got all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you said, it's not working. If it's not working, you got to change it.
Yeah. And it's, you have to take more ownership of it than you realize. I have a guy friend going through it really bad right now. He's going through a really nasty divorce. He's got kids. And he asked me the other day, how long does it take? How long does the divorce take? And I said, the divorce will take as long as it takes for you to own your power. Because this is not paperwork and lawyers. This dynamic you have with your soon-to-be ex, that one, you've got children together. So as long as you allow this dynamic to continue, it doesn't matter that you're divorced. If you continue to let the threats and this and that, and you don't figure out what your position is as a legal parent, as a good dad, as all those things, it does not end until you seize your own power. It does nothing to do with lawyers and paperwork. It has everything to do with you taking back control of your life and what you can control.
You're absolutely right, because when they have kids, it gets harder.
And it makes me really mad. I didn't have kids, and I was upset at first because people would say, oh, you're so lucky you didn't have kids. And I was like, you know what? I would have killed for that souvenir. I really wanted kids. Like, even if it meant co-parenting. It used to really upset me when people would say, thank God you didn't have kids. I thought that was so insensitive. But now I look at it and I'm like, man, if I meant to have kids, it wasn't with that person. And I see what people go through, and it is infinitely harder. And when I see people use their children as a bargaining chip, I'm like, how did you get to be a parent that I didn't get to? Like that. This
is something, yeah, amen to that. Some people, they really use their kids as a weapon. But they don't understand when you get divorced, it's not about you or her. It's about that individual that you brought to this world, and you are responsible for the life of that person. Yeah. And whatever you do is going to reflect their life. But just take yourself out of the equation.
You're divorcing as a spouse, not as a parent. You have made a commitment that is lifelong to that person when you became parents together. You can end the marriage and that romantic dynamic, but I get really impressed by the couples I see who can manage to co-parent. Did you have kids?
Yes.
Oh, how many?
Just one.
Okay.
With my ex, yeah.
Yeah. So you know that.
Oh, yeah.
What benefits him most is you don't have to be in love and kissy and smoochy and married, but you do have to be respectful as people, as his parents, because he needs to see that dynamic. And people forget.
But it takes for both sides to understand that.
Oh, and everyone has to sign up and go, hey, our job as parents is to create a human that's going to succeed in the world. You're taking a little tiny person and making them an adult.
Well, we go back to what you said, that people, they're carrying their goddamn past.
Yeah.
And then they do that. I don't know, intentionally or whatever it is. They take that and they use it against you. It doesn't matter what happened, but the past is past. Let it go.
Yeah. From compassion, I would say it's a survival instinct. If for instance, a dynamic I commonly see is this mistrust and anger that sometimes women will have towards their soon-to-be ex-husband. And
you're the unicorn, I can tell you that. Because
thank you.
A lot of people, they don't think the way you look at it.
I just think that I look at myself and, I didn't trust men because my dad taught me at a young age that men leave. So I was, that was the conditioning I had. And survival taught me men maybe aren't safe. My survival, your brain learns from everything and it starts getting to this fight or flight thing. Okay. Men aren't safe. Women aren't safe. People who are like this are going to do this to me. And it is survival. And I can have some compassion for that. But you do have to evolve and say, okay, we're not cavemen. Just because a man lied to you in college or a woman cheated on you in high school doesn't mean all the rest are going to. And you don't get to treat them that way. The sooner you can realize that your survival instincts are a little outdated from the real life we're living now, the better off you are.
But to get to that point, that's the hardest thing.
Therapy. And I always tell people that too. I'm like, if you think you don't need therapy, that tells me you need therapy. Because therapy is all about figuring out your part in it and what you can control. And
Did
second,
help you?
Oh God, yeah, they hand you the keys to your own castle. You go in there a victim and all these things have been done to you and that doesn't change. But then you get handed these keys to your own castle and you can go into any room you want and you can decorate it how you want. And you start realizing that some of these absences in your life are a gift. It's not about fixing what happened to you in life. It's about knowing how much more control you have than you think you do. And that was a huge gift for me.
How did you shift your mindset? Because as I talk to you more, you really, I think you shifted in your mindset, 180 degree. How did you do that? Because that's the toughest thing ever.
I think I had to hit rock bottom, and it didn't feel good there. And I had to figure out how to get out. Rock bottom doesn't feel good. And my survival instinct said, I don't want to stay here. This is not a fun party. Like, how do I get out of it?
How you felt when you were down there?
A lack of hope is the most dangerous thing. Feeling like your future has been, oh, my husband's gone, which means my kids that I have not had aren't going to happen. And all these houses we were going to build and these dreams and these da-da-da-da-da. And it all was hinging around this one person, which is insane. This world is full of people. And what I also realized was if I want a house or kids or whatever, I don't need anybody to do that.
That's the part.
That's the part. When you start realizing how much of your story, you are the main character.
That's the part.
You don't need anyone else. Wanting them is a beautiful thing. Needing them is a risky position to put yourself in. And when you realize that you can survive all situations and achieve most things on your own, that gives you this really healthy dynamic to let people into.
Because you get to the point that you said that I'm powerful beyond imagination.
Yeah.
And I can do this. To get to that point for Amber, that was tough. I imagine that. Yeah. But when you get to that, you're down the hill. Is that right?
I think it's just a complete mindset shift. Once you finally get that and accept it, and maybe you have to say it in the mirror every day. Verbalizing things counts.
Did you do that?
Oh, I did. And I have a playlist of manifestations on Spotify of these just people who sit there and say nice things out loud. And I sit there and I listen to it. And I feel silly and I'm looking in the mirror and it's ridiculous. But like week 2, week 3, you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. I can do this. And you start getting these little mini successes under your belt of like, oh, I don't hate myself today. Or, oh, I've got some hope for the future. Like these basic things. And they compound and they roll and they escalate. And it gets to the point then where when something bad happens, you realize how finite. It's a bad moment. It's a bad day. It's not a bad life. I think about all the worst things that have happened to me. They all happened in a moment or a series of moments in one day.
Wow.
Whether it's an assault, a car accident, the decision to get divorced, that was one day. Some people choose to make that their life story. Why would you do that?
That they keep telling themselves that story over and over again.
Bad things happen to me. Yeah, well, you say that out loud enough, I've noticed, and they do. You're manifesting that, and people laugh.
You believe in the universe?
Absolutely. And you have to be an active participant in it. You can't wake up every morning and say, hope I get rich. Hope I'm successful.
Yeah, the law of attraction,
You have to participate in it.
Yeah, everybody thinking the law of attraction is just, okay, I want to go see the check in my mailbox tomorrow. It's coming.
Magic. That's magic.
I swear to God, what some people think that's not going to happen. That shit is not going to happen. You got to go work your butt off.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do that, it's going to happen.
But that law of attraction is the belief that you can.
Yes.
And how, if you don't believe you can walk through the door, you're never going to grab the door handle, which means you're never going to walk through it. So it's kind of like PEMDAS. Remember in school in math, parentheses, exponents, there's an order of operations for math. There's also not order of operations in making things happen for yourself. And step 1, every time is belief.
What makes Amber happy? Money?
I mean,
do you think money brings happiness?
I think it eases pain, and that's the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't think it brings happiness. It can deter stress. It can soften all that. To me, when you look at the world, it's obviously not money that brings happiness. Rich people are often miserable. And then you see these beautiful smiling faces of tribal villages. I think it all comes down to love. And it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be your cat. It can be your best friend. It can be a hobby. But the feeling of love is, to me, the ultimate thing that can make you happy. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my boyfriend. I love cooking. That's that key word. I don't love what the IRS said to me this year. That stressed me out. Money would ease that stress, but it wouldn't make me happy the way love does.
Yep. I think money brings comfort.
Uh-huh.
And, just kind of release the stress a little bit, but doesn't bring you necessarily the happiness that you're looking for.
If you do a global study, and I don't mean scientific real, when you do a quick image search of happy people, and when you get through the stock images, look at real ones. you see a lot of sadness and pain in the wealthy. Because a lot of times what it takes to get that rich means squandering all relationships, stepping on people to get up. It's oftentimes the antithesis of love. And you see these tribal people or these people who are living in poverty and have very little, but they're sharing. They're in a position that they have to share what little they have, which creates feelings of love and community and joy. And you can't ignore that.
But your perspective is like for example, if somebody doesn't know you or they think that you're speaking Chinese, because what you actually saying is a beautiful world that we all imagine, but the reality is not like that. You know it. I wish more people that were out there like you would be willing to help other people make things happen. But I think the way we're going with all this stuff that's going on right now, I don't see that. Hopefully it changes.
It's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate operating right now. You know what I mean? And it's funny because a lot of times people cite things like religion or the Constitution or these things that they think reinforce their excuses for hate. But when you really look at, I'm not particularly religious, but any work, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, anything, it preaches love, 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 love for your fellow man, acceptance, kindness. So why are you using religion as an excuse for hate? When you look at, this country being founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, why are you so mad about what makes people happy? There's this weird thing we have, this control mechanism that makes us want to override happiness and love and joy. And it's like, if everyone would just stop, have a sandwich, if everyone would just sit down and have a sandwich together and get those happy little endorphins that come from chewing and good flavors and go, what do we really want? It's all the same thing. Everyone's just scared that someone's going to take what they have. But if we would all just give a little more, no one would need to take. So,
as you give, you shall receive. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes people look at me. I think that's what is important about vulnerability also, is people will be like, well, you're this positive, you're this, unrealistic, nothing bad's ever happened to you.
That's totally different concept.
You want to talk about 2017 through 2021? Because I promise you, I ran the gambit on bad things happening. And I think that's what allowed me to feel this way. I've now realized, I used to think when people were super positive, nothing bad had ever happened to them. I'm now acutely aware that the really positive people have been through it.
Oh, yeah.
The really negative people have never been inconvenienced in their life. They've never had something really bad happen. They've never actually had a right taken away. They've never actually been infringed upon, or they would realize how silly what they're mad about is. It's the negative people who probably haven't been through the real stuff.
Now, I remember, I'm sure you saw that the cold front coming, the freeze is coming. We had this kind of scenario in Austin. Mm-hmm. Everybody rushing to, the supermarkets and grocery store, buy the can of beans, the water, the paper, whatever, all that stuff. And one day I was just parked in the parking lot. I said, it's just a cold weather.
For a few days.
What are you thinking? Why do you need all that cases of water?
People acted like it was a nuclear situation. Like we were locked indoors for weeks. It's like, you are potentially preventing a young mother from mixing formula for her child because we are going to be cold for a few days. Get what you need. And that's the problem with this country also. We have an excess culture. I have too many clothes. I have too many things. I know that. We have an excess culture and it doesn't leave enough. The 1%, things like that. You see it. Everyone gripes about the 1%. And then a cold front hits and everyone acts like the 1%. Nobody's worried what someone else has because their family needs it more.
That's what I'm saying. If something God happened here, as a war happens, everybody, I don't know what, they're going to shoot themselves or shoot other people, or I don't know.
Oh, those like zombie apocalypse shows and stuff, when they're not dark enough, I'm like, that's not, it would take days for this country to turn on each other so badly. And it breaks my heart to know that. But other countries that have been through pandemics previously, that have been through famine, they have this culture of like helping each other because they're used to that. This country is so selfish.
It is.
And if anything went wrong, everyone would turn on each other so quick. I'm like, if you think that there wouldn't be horrible things happening to women, people killing each other, I'm talking in days of an actual like a zombie apocalypse. And that's what we need to look at as a society. True longevity comes from working together. Rome fell for the same behavior.
Yeah, working. You just said it, working together. I always say it doesn't matter you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're independent.
What do we want?
What we want, and then where are we going?
And how do we do it together? Because the reality is we all live here.
Yep.
So how are we going to do it? And it's the same as working at a kitchen. That's kind of what I love about when I work. I have an amazing, sweet chef partner that I work with named Vish. He's half Malaysian, half Indian. And he just, of course, approaches life with these beautiful Eastern qualities. So much joy. And then we get to this point in the kitchen where we don't even have to say anything to each other. We're flowing. I'm taking what I need. He's taking what he needs. No one's going, stop, that's mine. I need the salt right now. Like, no one's doing that. We know it's going to come back.
You work in the kitchen, the only way that restaurant can run, I used to own the restaurant. The only way that the restaurant can run is the hour and a half wait on a Friday, Saturday.
Working
it's
together.
a solid working together as organization. The salad guy knows what to do. The pasta guy does that. The chef is sauteing that and passing it to the next person. I always tell people, you're going to build a business, as you got to understand. Like, I came from a restaurant. The restaurant was easier for me because I know how to manage the process.
And they don't stop to fight. And it's the same as probably your military background.
Yes.
You weren't fighting each other. You were fighting the problem. Same
You're working as a team.
You're not fighting each other. You're fighting the wait list. You're fighting that. We get this in every arena of our life. Parents, they're not fighting each other. They're fighting the 2-year-old's tantrum. Like, we get this in every arena of our life until it comes to politics and running society. And everyone just forgets.
Yes.
What we know to be inherently true. And it fascinates me.
It's really,
what are you doing?
It's really fascinating. But my question for you is where Amber is going, because you have a very interesting character. I have interviewed so many people, but you're so passionate. You're very positive, and you want to change things.
I do.
And you are in the mission. I don't know what is that mission, but I can feel it. I can sense it that you got something going on behind the curtain. You're in the mission. And I want to know, if you can tell me, what is the future for you?
Sometimes I know I'm on a mission and don't know what it is either.
I have that strong feeling to talk to you.
I know this. I know that no one person can change the world. I know that no one person can even have a mass effect. But what I do know is that the ripple effect and the butterfly effect are real. So as many days as I can make better, that person will go make someone's day better. And that person's can't. I want to figure out how I can touch the most people and share my joie de vivre and share my love and my belief system on how much quicker we can get to the ultimate living nirvana of joy and love. I don't know. Sometimes I think I would love it if it was a TV show. Maybe it's being an author. Maybe it's being a speaker. I haven't figured out the rest of my PEMDAS yet, but it starts with that belief. What we talked about earlier. I
can tell you right now, you are capable more than, you're capable of doing great things. I know that for a fact.
Thank you.
I can read people very well, and I think you got a lot of stuff that you can really do, create great things in this world for other people.
Thank you so much.
It's just that's the gift. I'm telling you, that's the gift.
It starts with believing.
It starts with believing. If you believe it, you can do that. But, right now with everything's changing, right now we are in recession, if you believe it or not.
I do.
Yeah, because you work in this space right now, and lead chain is hard.
Well, yeah, it's like my contacts are laid off. My company, that I'm working with has laid off the entire demand gen team. And you see it a lot in tech. Because also, the double-edged sword of tech is usually they can program something to replace a person. They can replace a salary with a program. So I see it a lot with the recession there. I see it in cooking with, doing price quotes for people, then going, you know what? I have to do either photographer or a chef. Like, you see it in all these areas of life. And we're very lucky in Austin to be touched less by it than other parts of the world. But again, that's going to have to be something we work together on. If people are playing silly games on the stock market, trying to screw Peter to pay Paul and all.
Yep.
We got to figure this out together. And I don't know how that goes. I'm definitely not a political genius.
Do you have any specific planning for yourself, like in the next couple of years?
No, my big thing is living in the present. I would love to put out a book. I've got my things I would love. I would love to put out a cookbook. I would love to travel some more. I would love to see my family more often. I would love to figure out the right way to make more people happy. I don't have a specific plan because
Food
plans
makes people
fall
happy.
through.
Yeah, I know. Food makes people happy.
It does, without fail.
But, a lot of, I'm a woman advocate person because I believe that women, they have the same power of men. They can do anything they want to do as men, they can do it. And a lot of females out there that, as I said earlier, they're stuck. They don't know. They want to do things, but something's holding them back. And it all goes back to their beliefs. And are they believing this stuff or not? You experienced that. You went through that from not believing yourself to the point that, here you go, this is Amber. Bring it on.
Yeah.
What those people have to do to actually move themselves a little bit.
Now, I'll say I had a leg up on them. I was lucky because I had the mom that believed in me and taught me that from a young age. So I admit I started further down the track. I got a little head start on that race
If they don't
that I acknowledge. If they don't have that, it's a choice you make. We talk so much about choices in life, and they choose to get up every day and go to work. They choose to eat dinner at night. We make choices constantly. What we very rarely do is choose to believe in ourselves. And it is that simple. Choose it. Start deciding that you're capable, because again, we are all blood, bones, tissues, muscles. We're all made of the same stuff. Some people have been started further up the track. Some started this and there. But the story of the tortoise and the hare is real. Just because a hare is faster doesn't mean it may not burn out. If you just are the tortoise and no matter how far back you start, if you just believe that you're going to get to that finish line and you make the consistent efforts of believing in yourself and taking the steps, you will get there. But if you do not believe it, if you don't make that choice to believe it, if you don't decide to grab the door handle, that's your belief. You're never going to walk through the door. So you just have to decide at some point, I choose to believe in myself and walk the path of someone who believes in
and then opportunities to start unfolding.
If you don't walk the path, you never pass that door. You never see that opportunity. Sitting still gets you nowhere.
Because opportunities, I believe, is all around us.
Of course. And you look at a lot of the people who are big in the world. Yes, there's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of head starts. There's a lot of family money. There's a lot of people who have done incredible things and started nowhere. Started from the bottom, now we're here. There's a lot of that in various industries. It's not impossible.
Because I say this all the time, that you don't need to be famous to do great things.
No.
Everybody thinking that I'm not famous, I'm not in that level. No, we all have a story. We all have something to contribute to this society, to other people, to friends, to family, to wives, husband, boyfriend. We all can do that, but we're holding ourselves back.
Of course. And the funny thing about fame and achievement is I feel like the Kardashians might be the only ones that fame came before achievement. Everyone else became famous because they were great. They're not great because they're famous. They were an amazing musician, an amazing actor, an amazing philanthropist, an amazing speaker. And that got them the fame. So you can't use that as an excuse. The Kardashians are the only ones who flipped the script.
Yeah, and then you look at it, that's great.
I can't think of anyone else that got fame before greatness.
Yeah, look at Eminem.
Perfect example, big Eminem girl.
I know.
I love Eminem. I'm such an Eminem girl, and he's a great example. He had more stacked against him than most people do. Poverty, a parent with Munchausen syndrome, made illness, white boy going into a very African-American community. He had everything stacked against him, and that dude's still the greatest.
Yes. I totally agree with you. It all goes back to our mindset and our beliefs.
He believed it. Yeah. Period. He believed it.
But, when is going to be your next cooking?
Well, I cook all the
time. Because you do events, right?
I do, yeah. I'm doing a corporate event next Monday. I'm working on a bachelorette program.
This is good. If you guys need something,
let me feed you.
Call Amber.
Yes, call me.
I forgot to ask you, and you really do that. Like like events, they need a personal chef.
Birthdays, corporate, bachelorette. Like I go to people's houses and I cook.
Are you
block parties? I had a block party recently. That was super fun. I love it.
And you have helpers to help you do it?
Sometimes. Usually I do it. I've got usually I'll sous chef for Vish. Vish runs his own catering company, but he's amazing also. If you need, the Fuse 9 he does beautiful food. I'm his sous chef. Typically when I do things on my own, I do them on my own. So anything up to like 20 people, I'll usually do it on my own.
Very private, very not, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a fun thing. It's like, you don't have to do the dishes. What more could you want?
do you have any advice for the female out there in general?
Yes, I love talking about the girls.
I know.
Men are not the enemy, and you also don't need their permission. That's my two big things. Men are not the enemy, but you don't need their permission.
Wow. What do you mean you don't need their permission?
A lot of women, they're like, that's a man's world. Men do this. Men are keeping you. Girl, don't be letting a man keep you down. Don't do that. Men are not the enemy. Women are great. Men are great. Judge people on a soul basis. I don't care what industry you want to go into. Yeah, it's probably going to be hard to join the NBA. Yeah. Physically speaking, not super realistic, but you want that CEO spot, you want this or that, you don't need anyone's permission. Do the work your way up. We're still working on some equality barriers there, but if you're not doing it and we're not all doing it, it can't be a movement if no one's moving. So you don't need a man's permission to achieve, and they're not the enemy. I don't want to hear women keeping themselves down with those excuses, because I think women can do absolutely anything. Be Amelia Earhart.
That's amazing. I totally agree with you. But, I really enjoy my conversation with you.
Me too.
We had so much fun. It's just learning a lot about you and, how people, they can find you and connect with you.
The easiest way is I've got like the rest of the world, I've got 800 Instagram accounts, got a meme account and a food account.
Yeah.
But Amber Lane TX, y'all. My middle name's Lane, so Amber Lane TX, y'all, at Instagram. I reply to everybody. So
amazing.
If anyone needs anything, that's fine.
But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it for your, quick response and accept this invitation. And,
it was fun.
Means a lot to me.
Me too. I'm really glad to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.